Hello, my name is Catherine Bennett, and I will be doing my educational thinker presentation on the philosopher Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget was a Swiss philosopher born in 1896. He is considered to be one of the most influential developmental psychologists to this day. He received his doctorate in biology and later in his career decided to focus on psychology. However, his biology background did influence him throughout his career, and actually he drew many of his psychology terms directly from biology. Piaget explored both how and why mental abilities change over time. For Piaget, development depends on a child's manipulation and active interaction with the world around them. His most influential work was the theory of cognitive development, which proposes that a child's intellect progresses through 4 stages: sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational, which we will discuss in detail later. Each of these developmental stages is characterized by the emergence of new abilities and ways of processing information. We will also discuss many of the specifics in his theories and how they are challenged today. The first thing I'd like to discuss is Piaget's 2 suggested ways of thinking. He believed that children moved from heteronymous morality or a heteronymous thinking to an autonomous morality or autonomous thinking. To begin, heteronymous thinking is also known as moral realism. This is when children regard morality as obeying other people's rules, which cannot be changed. Here, rules are very black and white. You either follow the rules or you break the rules. Autonomous thinking is very different. This is when children or adolescents start to believe that there is no absolute right or wrong, and it depends upon your intentions and not consequences. Here in autonomous thinking, children begin to understand that others or peers see the world differently as they do and not exactly the same. These 2 types of thinking develop as children move through the cognitive developmental theory. However, they do overlap some as children progress through the cognitive development theory. Piaget's main work was the cognitive development theory, which I stated is 4 stages of development. We will now go through each of those stages in detail and describe what Piaget believed made up those stages. The first stage is the sensory motor, which takes place ages birth to 2 years old. During this stage, children are able to explore the world using their senses and motor skills. Children may have physical inborn behaviors or what Piaget called them reflexes. By the end of the sensory motor, he believes that children should have the ability to plan or think about, just a little bit, problem solving. This is a major development that Piaget suggested because children are now able to think about their behaviors and maybe possible consequences. Another important development during this sensory motor stage is the ability to understand object permanence. Piaget believed that children should be able to understand that even if a toy is not directly in front of them, maybe under a blanket or in another room, the object still exists, even if they cannot see it at the moment. The next stage is the pre-operational stage, which takes place ages 2 to 7. During this stage, children develop the ability to use symbols to represent objects in the world around them, visual comprehension. Piaget also believes that children during this stage are egocentric in their thinking, so more heteronymous, as we discussed earlier. They believe that peers see the world exactly as they do, and rules are black and white. You either follow the rules or you break the rules. The third stage is the concrete operational stage. This takes place around ages 7 to 11. Here is the improvement of the ability to think logically, Piaget suggests. New thinking strategies for children include operations that are actually reversible. So although children may start to go down a certain thinking path, it is reversible. We are able to backtrack and maybe take a different route. During this stage, thinking is no longer egocentric as in the earlier stage. Here we start to see children move away from seeing the world exactly as they do and understanding that my friends and my peers may understand and have different experiences of the world than I do, and that's okay. The last stage is the formal operational stage, which takes place between ages 11 to adulthood. During this stage, children are able to think abstractly and symbolically. With the formal operational stage comes the ability to deal with potential or hypothetical situations that may occur later down the road or later in life. Piaget's cognitive development theory includes a theory about the development of moral reasoning, which we discussed earlier. He did believe that cognitive structures and abilities develop first and then determine the child's ability to reason appropriately. Through this, the field of education began to realize that teachers are not only responsible for educating students on academic curriculum or academic subjects, but that teachers are also role models and responsible for helping to instill moral values and ideas within their students. That was evolutionary. So major impacts of Piaget's work. Piaget's ideas were a turning point in education. This is because he actually directly observed children and how they changed over time, and how their learning and abilities changed over time. Piaget wanted to understand how children think, how they learn, and how they can develop or change the way curriculum is taught. Some of his ideas are later used in the learning theory, and eventually into the modern information processing system. His ideas have been adapted some and changed to fit what we now understand about children and their developmental process, but you can still see the main underlying ideas rooted behind it. Current theorists have also further developed his cognitive development theory. They now believe that there is a reciprocal nature between cognition and learning, and that a student does not have to meet some level of cognition before moving on. A few critiques for Piaget. Some philosophers believe Piaget somewhat underestimated children's development and their capabilities. Piaget did note that children may not possess or pass through the stages at exactly the same time. However, current philosophers and theorists strongly believe that children are capable of a lot more than what Piaget originally thought. A personal critique of mine is that Piaget stopped his developmental theory at early adulthood or adolescence. We all know that teenagers are not fully developed by the age of 13 or 15 when it comes to reasoning or morality or their educational beliefs. During adolescence, teenagers are continuing to grow, both physically and mentally. I believe that it would have been very interesting if Piaget would have furthered his studies and theories into later adolescence and early adulthood, out of college and into the workplace. I would have been very interested to see if we are continuing to grow and our thinking changes throughout that time, or if he believes we stay the same. But overall, I believe Piaget contributed numerous impactful ideas and theories. I do believe educators should honor and implement some of his ideas within their lessons and in their classrooms, but while also understanding that with modern day science and studies, that we can change and adapt some of his theories to now understand what we know. I hope this presentation was informative and that you learned a little more about the ideas and theories of Jean Piaget. Thank you.